Coming up on this Friday edition of Daybreak, search efforts on the sunken Sewol-ho ferry continue to prove painstaking and slow. The confirmed death toll has risen to 221, but 81 people remain unaccounted for. US President Barack Obama is expected to name Mark Lippert, a close advisor and friend, as the next US ambassador to Seoul, replacing Sung Kim as America's top diplomat in South Korea. Plus, April was another solid month for Korean exporters. The nation's trade balance has now been in the black every month for well over 2 years. Daybreak begins now. Hello and thanks for joining us. To our viewers around the world, it's 6 a.m. on Friday, May 2nd here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broom and you're tuned in to Daybreak. We start with the latest on the Sewol-ho ferry disaster. It was another long and difficult night for the search and rescue teams at the accident site. The confirmed death toll now stands at 221, with 81 people, mostly teenagers, still unaccounted for, some 2.5 weeks after the disaster. Rapid tidal currents and bad weather, as well as debris and poor visibility, hampered the divers in their search. Officials say divers are currently searching open cabins, but there are plans to forcibly open blocked sections where many passengers are believed to be trapped, starting this Sunday. Meanwhile, authorities are seeking arrest warrants against 2 officials from the ferry's operator, Chonghaejin Marine Company. Prosecutors and police are looking into the possibility that overloading and illegal renovation of the vessel may have played a role in its capsize, and they want the 2 officials to be charged with manslaughter. Investigators think containers loaded on the ferry were only tied down with rope, which caused the cargo to slide when the ship lost balance. Now, the unbearable wait for the families of the missing continues on Jindo Island, and now a group of people who have gone through a similar experience are with them to show their support. Our Kwon So-ah reports.
A group who knows as well as anyone the pain of having lost a family member in a ship disaster arrived on Jindo Island Wednesday afternoon to help the people who continue to wait for word of their loved ones who were aboard the Sewol-ho ferry. The new group of volunteers is made up of family members of the victims who lost their lives when the South Korean warship Cheonan sunk on March 26, 2010. 46 people tragically lost their lives that day. Around 30 of their family members went to Jindo to stay with the families at Paekmokgang Harbor and Jindo Indoor Auditorium. The people there waiting for word on the missing have been there for more than 2 weeks now and don't have much physical or mental strength left. The family members of the Cheonan victims said they want to pay back the help they received from other volunteers 4 years ago. They added that they are being careful not to draw attention to themselves, that they just want to provide help in any way they can. That includes doing the laundry, cleaning up, and serving food, among other tasks. They have also expressed their sorrow and frustration about the Sewol-ho tragedy.
I would have never thought that so many young students would die. And at this moment, I'm just sad. Why do these tragic incidents keep occurring? I hope this kind of tragedy never happens again.
Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
And in the wake of the disaster, the Korean government says it's investing more on establishing a more centralized disaster response system and boosting emergency training. President Park Geun-hye asked all ministries to make sure manuals that contain emergency response procedures are in place and those in charge are well informed and properly trained. She also talked about maintaining the country's financial soundness through a so-called pay-go policy, so that expenditures are paid for with funds that are already available.
We start before the sun rises to bring you the latest stories out of Korea. We also lead the way with important global coverage. Stay on the pulse of what is happening with Daybreak.
Now, Mark Lippert, one of US President Barack Obama's closest aides, has been chosen to be Washington's next ambassador to Seoul. Multiple diplomatic sources say the US government notified South Korea during President Obama's visit to Seoul late last week. Lippert, who is currently Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel's chief of staff, served as Assistant Secretary of Defense for Asian and Pacific Security Affairs from April 2012 till May 2013. He was also the former Chief of Staff for the US National Security Council. The current ambassador, Sung Kim, is expected to return to the State Department in September. Now, there's a new player in the North Korean elite, and he's moving up the ranks pretty fast. It looks like Hwang Byung-seo, who was made Vice Marshal just 2 weeks ago, has replaced another top-ranking official to become the number 2 in the regime. Hwang Sang-hee reports.
When North Korean leader Kim Jong-un visited a newly built textile mill in Pyongyang on Wednesday, he was accompanied by Hwang Byung-seo. Here, Kim ordered the military Politburo chief to congratulate the workers in celebration of May Day.
Leader Kim called for May Day to be celebrated on a grand scale and ordered the military Politburo chief to attend the event to congratulate the workers.
But Choi Ryong-hae, a long-serving hardliner in the North Korea military brass, is not seen in the photos from that day. He's also absent from the list of officials who accompanied the young leader.
The leader was accompanied by comrades Hwang Byung-seo, Park Yong-sik, and Ma Won-chun.
This has fueled speculation that Hwang may have replaced Choi as the military Politburo chief. North Korea watchers are keeping a close eye on the rapid rise of Hwang, who was promoted to the position of Vice Marshal less than 2 weeks after being put in the ranks of a 4-star general. Hwang reportedly led last year's purge of Chang Sung-taek, who was once the second most powerful man in North Korea. Experts say Hwang's speedy promotion may be intended to cap the power of Choi, the regime's current number 2. As for Choi, who has vanished from public sight in recent weeks, the rumors are that he has been hospitalized due to complications from diabetes and fatigue. Hwang Sang-hee, Arirang News.
China and Russia have confirmed they will hold joint military drills at the end of this month. The exercises will take place in a sensitive region of the East China Sea, where territorial disputes still rage. Our Connie Lee has this report.
Amid regional tensions, China and Russia are set to hold joint military drills at the end of the month. The naval drills, called the Jointly at Sea 2014, are planned for the East China Sea, where territorial disputes and differences over air defense zones are numerous. The East China Sea is where Beijing has had a long-standing dispute with Tokyo over islands called Diaoyu in China and Senkaku in Japan. China also declared an air defense identification zone in that area last November and has called for all foreign aircraft flying through the area to identify themselves. It's a request both the U.S. and Japan have denounced and ignored. In a statement on its website, China's defense ministry said the drills were a regular exercise between the Chinese and Russian navies. They say the drills are intended to deepen their practical cooperation and enhance their ability to deal with maritime security threats. Analysts say that choosing the East China Sea as a location for the drills is an obvious political statement, with Washington as the audience. The U.S. has sided with Japan and the Philippines in their territorial disputes with China in the East and South China Seas. As for Russia, analysts say the joint drills could be interpreted as a protest against U.S. sanctions on Moscow that have been imposed over its actions in Ukraine. However, China's defense ministry described the upcoming drills as regular in nature and that similar drills with Russia were held in the past. Connie Lee, Arirang News.
Now, with a little over 1 month remaining before the June 4th local elections, the nation's political parties are busy finalising their list of men and women they want to put forward as candidates. While many races remain up in the air, some have already taken shape. Shin Se-min reports.
Gearing up for the June 4th local elections, the ruling Saenuri Party and the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy have begun pinning down their candidates. The ruling and the main opposition parties have already confirmed candidates for the majority of the 17 mayoral and provincial governor seats up for grabs, and a number of the races crystallized on Wednesday and Thursday. Among those regions, the city of Busan, the nation's second largest city, will have a three-way competition as the former Minister of Fisheries, independent Oh Go-don, jumped into the race. He'll face off against Cha Byung-soo of the ruling Saenuri Party and Kim Young-chun of the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy. And over in Chungcheongnam-do province, the race between former veteran lawmaker Chung Jin-seok of ruling Saenuri Party and the current provincial governor An Hee-jung of the main opposition New Politics Alliance has been finalized. With the capsizing of the ferry hitting the nation at heart, and with the growing distrust of the government and the ruling Saenuri Party, the ruling party candidates are expected to be facing an uphill battle in the June 4th election. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
April was another sturdy month for Korean exporters. The trade balance has now been in the black for 27 straight months, and on top of that, sectors that didn't fare so well last year are bouncing back strongly. Song Ji-sun reports.
Korea posted a 27th consecutive monthly trade surplus in April, and more importantly, it resulted from improvement in most export industries. With the exception of LCD panels, key export items demonstrated strong growth, even steel and petroleum products, which suffered from a slump last year. Deliveries of high value-added vessels, like drill ships, helped place the shipping industry at the top in terms of export growth. Traditional export engines like semiconductors and handsets also saw an expansion thanks in part to the launch of Samsung's new Galaxy S5 model. The nation's trade surplus stood at $4.5 billion in April, with outbound shipments surpassing the $50 billion mark for the second time in history. Last month's export figure of $50.3 billion is up 9% from the same month last year, while imports rose 5% to $45.9 billion. By region, exports to U.S. rose 19% in April, another sign that the U.S. economy is recovering at a robust pace. Outbound shipments to ASEAN countries and Japan also gained ground, but slowed to European nations and China. Trade officials said, however, the large surplus in April was partly because exporters expedited shipping and customs clearances in April before the holidays in the first week of May. Looking to the month ahead, slower growth is possible due to a fewer number of working days. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
The 15th annual Jonju International Film Festival opened on Thursday, but without the usual fanfare due to the Sewol-ho ferry tragedy. The festival's organising committee cancelled an opening red carpet event and receptions. Outdoor performances and street events previously scheduled were also called off. Instead, the committee said the focus would be on introducing and screening 180 movies from 44 countries, most of which are experimental or art house films. The annual festival is known for lineups centering on independent and top art house pictures, but this year's programme showcases more non-mainstream films. The 10-day festival opened with the world premiere of Mad, Sad, Bad, a 3D experimental film by 3 Korean directors. Now, in slightly worrying news, the World Health Organization says growing antibiotic resistance is a major global threat and is calling for urgent action. Its new report says minor infections we are able to overcome today could become deadly in the future. Kim Hyun-bin reports.
Global health authorities are sounding the alarm about the world's growing resistance to antibiotics, which they say could allow for a superbug to develop. A report by the UN's World Health Organization says the resistance is occurring right now and affects anyone, no matter their age or location in the world. The WHO's Assistant Director General for Health Security, Kiji Fukuda, said the world is entering into a post-antibiotic era, where minor infections and injuries that were easily treated for decades are killing again. The WHO report, which compiled data from 114 countries, said 2 key antibiotics in particular no longer work in more than half of people being treated in some countries. One of them, carbapenem, is used to treat people with life-threatening infections. The WHO is calling for urgent action to address the issue. Experts say drug resistance is driven by misuse and overuse of antibiotics, which has given bacteria a chance to build up immunity. To reverse the tide and stave off a global epidemic, experts say it will take political will and considerable investments in research and development. The WHO report also called for better hygiene, better access to clean water, and vaccinations to reduce the need for antibiotics. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Time now for a look through our international headlines. For that, we connect live to our Eunice Kim, standing by at the news center. Good morning, Eunice.
Good morning, Mark. Let's begin with an update on that deadly train station explosion in northwestern China. Authorities there are saying the terror attack in Urumqi was carried out by at least 2 religious extremists who struck bystanders with knives before detonating explosives. Both are reported to have died and 1 other person as well. 79 others were wounded. In reaction, Chinese President Xi Jinping called for, quote, decisive action and said the government must prepare itself for a, quote, long-term, complex and acute fight against Xinjiang separatists. He was concluding a 4-day tour of the Uyghur Autonomous Region when the attack took place. Wednesday's onslaught was the 3rd high-profile attack against civilians in 7 months, blamed on Xinjiang extremists. And at least 33 people have been killed in an airstrike over the largest Syrian city of Aleppo Thursday. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said government warplanes dropped missiles over a busy market in the rebel-controlled district. It follows a bombing over a school in southern Aleppo that killed 18 people on Wednesday. Criticism continues to mount against Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, who is preparing to be re-elected in a June poll as his government continues to attack rebel-held parts of Aleppo. More than 150,000 people have died in the 3 years of conflict against the Assad regime. Meanwhile, tensions in Ukraine is only heating up. Ukraine's acting president Oleksandr Turchinov has reinstated military conscription as Kiev continues to lose its grip in its eastern region. Pro-Russian militants took the region's prosecutor's office in the flashpoint city of Donetsk Thursday. This as NATO is boosting its presence in the region. A formal rotation ceremony, which you saw just now, was held on Wednesday in Lithuania, swapping out U.S. air contingents for NATO forces in the Baltic air policing mission. Meanwhile, Russian news agency RIA Novosti reports that Moscow began Air Force drills Thursday near its border with Estonia and Latvia. Together with Lithuania, the 3 Baltic states were under Soviet occupation for 50 years before they joined NATO and the EU. And in the United States, an explosion has partially leveled a 4-story jail in Pensacola, Florida, killing 2 inmates and injuring some 150. A gas leak is suspected as witnesses reported of smelling gas before the blast late Wednesday local time. County spokeswoman Kathleen Castro said there was no fire, adding that it could also have been related to the severe storms that have pounded the region, citing extreme flooding. The investigation continues.
And good morning to you all as we kick things off with the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympics, which is still about 4 years away. And after the IOC's organizing committee held their 3-day meeting, they liked what they saw. With the IOC members taking a look at how the preparation is being done for the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Games during their 3rd meeting so far, they liked what they saw, as Gunilla Lundberg, one of the VPs of the IOC, stated that she's sure it'll be a success. But she did add that there are still room for improvements, as she stated that some of the venues, marketing, event service, and test venues could use a little more improvement. And now moving over to the LPGA, where the North Texas LPGA Shootout just kicked off their 4-day event. And with Park In-bi claiming the title last season, she hopes to defend that title. And with 17-year-old Lydia Ko not participating in the event, all eyes will be on #1 ranked Park In-bi, who hopes to defend their title and win her first title of the season as well. Park, who started off the season slow, is quickly improving each week as she hopes to continue her recent success with her putting game. Meanwhile, with the Sewol-ho Memorial Altar being set up in Dallas, Park Se-ri and Lee Ji-young was seen at the altar paying respect to the victims before the event kicked off. And moving over to the KBO, where blown calls have been a center of a huge controversy during the past week, but things are really getting serious after one fan attacked an umpire on Wednesday night. Now, during Wednesday night's Kia SK game, after what looked to be yet another blown call, an intoxicated Kia fan ran onto the field and attacked the first base umpire. And while he was placed under police custody, the Kia Tigers have also banned him for life in all Kia home games. Meanwhile, the team added that all alcoholic beverages with 6% or more in alcohol content will not be sold as well. And now with that staying in the KBO, let's take a look at Thursday night's KBO action. The Kia Tigers get revenge thanks to SK's new KBO record of 8 errors by beating them 20-2. With the NC Dinos beating the LG Twins 10-5 and the Nexen Heroes hang on to beat the Doosan Bears 2-1. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the Lotte Giants take on the Hanwha Eagles. Of course, going into the game here, first inning, Kim Tae-gyun an RBI double to center field, and the Hanwha Eagles take a 1-0 lead before Felix P.A. grounds one to second base. This one an RBI ground out, giving the Hanwha Eagles the early 2-0 lead. Meanwhile, Hanwha's Yu Chang-sik with yet another shutout performance during 5 innings of no-run ball while giving up just 4 hits. Meanwhile, 9th inning of the game, men on first and second. Park Chung-yoon drives this ball to deep left center field. Ko Dong-jin makes the catch, and the throw to first is in time. Double play. The Hanwha Eagles win this one 3-0. And now finishing things off with the ongoing incident with Donald Sterling, who has been given a lifetime ban in the sport. With the NBA owners set to vote on Donald Sterling to sell the team, the fans are getting involved as well. And one of the fans who helped set up the website, Drew Cohen, stated that given Mr. Sterling's past discriminatory actions and his most recent heinous comments, they have set up a letter-writing campaign that allows fans to email owners directly to urge them to follow the commissioner's recommendation to exercise their authorities as owners to force the sale of the Clippers. And the fans who plan to get involved can email the owners of their favorite teams. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great weekend, everyone, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Strong currents in Jindo should start to ease up tomorrow as the spring tides end today. And the waves and winds should be a bit tougher, with winds blowing in at 6 to 11 meters per second during the day. And we'll start out the day under the dazzling sunshine, then the clouds should increase heading towards the afternoon. But sprinkles are in the picture for the Seoul metro area in the mid-afternoon. But the southern provinces will have temperatures hovering mid to upper 20s during the day, so it could feel like midsummer in the afternoon. Now, the high in Seoul will rise to 22 degrees Celsius, while people in Daegu should see a high of 29 degrees Celsius. Now, we should have a temperature for today, and the afternoon high in Seoul will rise to 22, and the high in Daegu should soar to 29, and Gwangju and Busan should peak at 25 and 24 respectively. Now, let's see how other regions are looking. It looks like down on Jeju and Daejeon will peak at 25 and 26. Dokdo should see a high of 23, while Mount Keungang tops out at 21. Well, that's all for now, but I'll be back with more updates after 10.
And those are the stories we have for you at this hour. Korea Today is coming up in about 30 minutes' time, and we'll be back at the same time on Monday. Until then, goodbye.